Chinonso was a kind and intelligent girl who lived with her stepmother, Hadiza. After the death of her mother, she was a bright young girl, always eager to help others and make people happy. Chinonso had a warm heart and was loved by everyone in her village. Her life seemed peaceful, though it was marked by the absence of her real mother, whom she missed deeply. Hadiza, her stepmother, appeared to care for her deeply. She would often act sweet and loving, showering Chinonso with attention. Hadiza would ask her about her day and listen to her talk about the things that made her happy. Chinonso, in return, trusted her stepmother, feeling that Hadiza was the only family she had left. But there was something unusual about their nightly routine. Every evening, after dinner, Hadiza would give Chinonso a small bottle of sleeping pills. "Take these, my dear. They will help you sleep better and wake up feeling fresh," she would say with a soft smile. Chinonso, not thinking much of it, accepted the pills. She had always been a good girl and listened to Hadiza, believing that her stepmother only wanted what was best for her. Chinonso would take the pills without hesitation, hoping to sleep peacefully. But deep inside, she began to wonder why Hadiza insisted on giving her these pills every night. The more she took them, the more curious she became. Hadiza seemed to have her own reasons for wanting Chinonso to sleep soundly every night. What was really going on? And why was Hadiza so focused on controlling her rest? Something didn't feel quite right, but Chinonso didn't have the answers yet. As the days passed, Chinonso started to notice strange things happening at night. At first, she thought it was just her imagination, but soon it became impossible to ignore. Every night, after she took the sleeping pills and lay down in bed, she could hear soft whispers coming from somewhere in the house. The voices were so quiet that she couldn't understand what was being said, but they made her feel uneasy. Sometimes, she would hear faint footsteps moving around in the hallway, as if someone was walking very quietly. Chinonso would try to shake off the feeling, telling herself that it was just the wind or the house settling. But the sounds continued, and they started to make her feel more and more uncomfortable. She would lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, wide awake, wondering who or what was causing the noise. She even began to feel like someone was watching her, even though no one was in her room. The next morning, Chinonso decided to mention it to Hadiza, hoping for some comfort. But Hadiza smiled and reassured her. "Oh, don't worry, my dear. It's just the house making those noises. You've been under stress lately, and that's probably why you're hearing things." Hadiza's calm voice and gentle smile made Chinonso feel a little better. But deep down, she wasn't sure. The whispers and footsteps were too real to ignore. And the unease that had settled in her heart didn't go away. Chinonso started feeling more suspicious about the pills Hadiza gave her. Every time she took them, she felt so sleepy, as if her mind was foggy. Sometimes, it was hard to remember things she had done earlier in the day. She began to wonder if the pills were really making her sleep better, or if they were hiding something more sinister. Was there a connection between the strange noises and the pills? Chinonso couldn't be sure, but she decided that she had to find out the truth. One afternoon, after a long day, Chinonso sat under a big tree in the garden, feeling troubled. She couldn't keep the strange happenings to herself anymore. Her heart was heavy, and the weight of the mystery was becoming unbearable. So she decided to talk to her best friend, Amina, about everything that had been going on. Amina was Chinonso's closest friend, always there for her, listening patiently and offering advice. The two had been friends for as long as they could remember, and Amina was someone Chinonso trusted completely. She told Amina about the whispering voices she had heard at night and the strange footsteps that seemed to follow her around the house. Chinonso also shared her worries about the sleeping pills her stepmother had been giving her every night. She explained how the pills made her feel sleepy, but also made her feel like something wasn't right. Amina listened carefully, her expression growing serious as Chinonso spoke. When Chinonso finished, Amina thought for a moment before speaking. "Chinonso," she said quietly, "I think you should stop taking the pills for a few days and see what happens. Maybe that's the first step in understanding what's going on. You need to trust yourself and pay attention to how you feel without them." Chinonso hesitated for a moment. She didn't want to upset Hadiza, but she trusted Amina's judgment. If Amina thought it was a good idea, maybe it was time to find out what was really happening. So, she made up her mind. That night, she would not take the pills. Amina became a key supporter to Chinonso in this secret mission to uncover the truth. She encouraged Chinonso to be brave and stay strong. "You have the right to know what's going on in your own home, Chinonso," Amina said. "And whatever you discover, I'll be here to help you." Chinonso felt a little less scared knowing that Amina would be there to support her. She knew this wouldn't be easy, but with Amina by her side, she felt more confident. That night, as Hadiza handed her the usual bottle of pills, Chinonso smiled politely and took it, but instead of swallowing the pill, she quietly slipped it into her pocket. She was determined to figure out the truth, even if it meant standing up to Hadiza. A few days after deciding to stop taking the pills, Chinonso was cleaning the house as part of her usual chores. She went into the storage room, a small dusty place at the back of the house, to organize some old boxes. The room was filled with cobwebs and piles of things that had been untouched for years. Chinonso carefully moved items around, wiping away the dust as she worked. As she was sorting through a box of old books, her hand brushed against something soft and worn. She pulled it out and saw that it was a small, leather-bound journal. The cover was faded, but the initials N.E. were neatly written on the front. Chinonso's heart skipped a beat. Those were her late mother's initials. She held the journal tightly, feeling a sudden wave of emotions. This was something her mother had owned, something personal and precious. Curiosity got the better of her, and she opened the journal. The pages were filled with her mother's neat handwriting. Chinonso began reading, and at first, the entries were happy, filled with stories about her childhood and how much her mother loved her. But as she read further, the tone of the journal changed. Her mother started writing about Hadiza, expressing concerns about her stepmother's behavior. One entry caught Chinonso's attention. "Hadiza is not who she pretends to be. She acts kind, but I have seen her do things that make me worry for Chinonso. I fear she is trying to gain control over my family's wealth. I must protect my daughter, no matter what it takes." Chinonso's hands trembled as she read the words. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. Her mother had suspected Hadiza of being manipulative and dishonest long before her death. There were other entries describing small incidents, like Hadiza trying to control family decisions and being overly interested in their financial matters. Tears filled Chinonso's eyes as she realized her mother had been worried about her all along. She clutched the journal to her chest, feeling both sad and angry. Sad because her mother wasn't there to protect her anymore, and angry because Hadiza had been hiding her true self. This discovery made Chinonso even more determined to uncover the full truth about her stepmother. The journal was now her key to understanding the past and protecting herself in the present. That night, Chinonso made a brave decision. After finding her mother's journal and reading about Hadiza's manipulative behavior, she knew she couldn't ignore the strange things happening around her anymore. She needed answers. As usual, Hadiza came into her room with the small bottle of pills. "Take these, my dear, and you'll sleep peacefully," Hadiza said with a warm smile. Chinonso nodded and pretended to swallow the pill, but instead of taking it, she secretly slipped it under her pillow when Hadiza wasn't looking. After Hadiza left the room, Chinonso turned off the light and got into bed. She lay still, pretending to sleep, but her heart was racing. She had no idea what might happen, but she was determined to find out. Minutes felt like hours as she waited in the darkness, her breathing steady to make it seem like she was in a deep sleep. Then, just as the house fell completely silent, she heard the door to her room creak open slowly. Her heart thumped loudly in her chest, but she stayed perfectly still. Through her barely opened eyes, she saw a shadowy figure step into the room. It was Hadiza. Hadiza tiptoed across the room and went straight to Chinonso's drawer. Carefully, she opened it and began searching through its contents. Chinonso was shocked. She had always thought of that drawer as her private space where she kept her most treasured belongings, including her late mother's journal. Hadiza pulled out a few items, including some papers that Chinonso hadn't paid much attention to before. The stepmother examined them quietly, then tucked them into the folds of her wrapper. Chinonso couldn't see everything clearly, but she knew whatever Hadiza was taking had to be important. As Hadiza quietly left the room and closed the door behind her, Chinonso's mind raced. Why was Hadiza sneaking into her room? What were those papers, and why did Hadiza take them? This bold decision to fake taking the pills had revealed something suspicious, but it also raised more questions. Chinonso knew she couldn't stop now. She had to figure out what Hadiza was up to, no matter what it took. Chinonso and Uncle Musa got to work immediately. The first step was to gather as much evidence as possible to prove Hadiza's wrongdoings. Chinonso showed Uncle Musa the documents she had found, including the forged signatures and forms where Hadiza had used her name. Uncle Musa carefully looked through everything and agreed that these were strong pieces of evidence. But he told Chinonso they needed more to make their case solid. Uncle Musa suggested they visit the lawyer who had handled Chinonso's late father's will. When they arrived at the lawyer's office, Chinonso explained what she had discovered. The lawyer was shocked and confirmed that Hadiza had been acting on Chinonso's behalf without proper authorization. He also provided additional paperwork showing the irregularities in Hadiza's actions. This was another important piece of evidence to add to their case. Next, Uncle Musa suggested they record conversations with Hadiza to catch her admitting the truth. Chinonso was nervous about this, but knew it was necessary. She placed a small recorder in her pocket and approached Hadiza at home. During their conversation, Chinonso carefully brought up the inheritance and how Hadiza had been controlling it. At first, Hadiza tried to deny everything, but when Chinonso pressed her, Hadiza eventually admitted her actions, saying, "I only did what I had to do to survive." Chinonso's heart raced as she realized she had captured the confession they needed. During this time, Chinonso's best friend Amina stayed by her side. Amina was shocked when Chinonso told her everything that had happened, but she didn't hesitate to support her. "You're so brave, Chinonso," Amina said one evening. "I know this is hard, but you're doing the right thing. I'm here for you, no matter what." Amina's kindness and encouragement gave Chinonso the strength to keep going, even when she felt overwhelmed. Whenever Chinonso felt scared or doubted herself, Amina reminded her of how far she had come and how much she deserved to reclaim her life. With the documents, the lawyer's statements, and the recorded conversations, Chinonso and Uncle Musa now had a strong case. They were ready to take the next step and present their findings to the local authorities. Chinonso felt a mix of fear and determination, but she knew she wasn't alone. With Uncle Musa's guidance and Amina's emotional support, she was ready to fight for justice and expose the truth about Hadiza's betrayal. The day had finally come for Chinonso to expose Hadiza's lies. With Uncle Musa by her side, she walked confidently into the local council's office. The council was made up of respected elders in the village who handled disputes and ensured justice. Chinonso had already informed them about her situation, and they had agreed to hold a hearing to review the evidence. The council hall was crowded that day. Word had spread through the village, and many people had come to watch. Hadiza arrived as well, looking calm and confident. She didn't believe Chinonso had enough proof to challenge her. She greeted the elders politely and sat down, pretending nothing was wrong. When it was Chinonso's turn to speak, she stood up and addressed the council. Her voice was steady, though her heart was racing. "My name is Chinonso," she began, "and I am here to expose the truth about my stepmother, Hadiza. She has been stealing my inheritance and using my identity for her gain." The crowd murmured in surprise, and Hadiza's smile faltered. Chinonso continued, showing the documents she had found. "These are the papers I discovered in a hidden compartment in our house. They show how Hadiza forged my signature and took control of my father's properties and accounts." One of the elders examined the documents and nodded. "These are serious accusations," he said. "Do you have any other evidence?" "Yes," Chinonso said. She played the recording of her conversation with Hadiza, where Hadiza admitted to taking her inheritance. The room fell silent as everyone listened to Hadiza's words. "I only did what I had to do to survive." Hadiza's face turned pale. She stood up and tried to defend herself. "This is all a misunderstanding," she said loudly. "I was only trying to protect Chinonso's future. Everything I did was for her benefit." But the council was not convinced. Uncle Musa stepped forward and presented the statement from the lawyer, confirming that Hadiza had acted without proper authorization. "This woman has betrayed the trust of her late husband and taken advantage of this young girl," he said firmly. "Her actions cannot be ignored." The elders turned to Hadiza. "What do you have to say for yourself?" one of them asked. Hadiza stammered, unable to come up with an explanation. The evidence was too strong, and the crowd began whispering and shaking their heads in disapproval. Finally, she broke down and confessed. "Fine. I did it," she said. "I took the inheritance, but I had no choice. I was left with nothing after my husband's death." Her confession only made the crowd angrier. The elders declared that Hadiza would be stripped of her guardianship over Chinyonso and would face legal consequences for her actions. They also ordered that all of Chinyonso's inheritance be returned to her immediately. As the hearing ended, Chinyonso felt a weight lift off her shoulders. The truth was finally out, and justice had been served. The villagers praised her bravery, and Uncle Musa gave her a proud smile. Chinyonso knew she had taken the first step toward reclaiming her life. Hadiza's lies had been exposed for everyone to see, and Chinyonso was ready to move forward with courage and hope. After the truth about Hadiza was revealed, the council wasted no time in taking action. The elders announced that Hadiza would no longer be Chinyonso's guardian. They said she had betrayed the trust of the community and her late husband, and her actions could not be forgiven easily. The local authorities were called to handle the case, and Hadiza was taken away to face legal consequences for forgery and theft. The village buzzed with news of Hadiza's downfall. Many people were shocked by what she had done, while others said they had always suspected something was wrong. Hadiza's confident and controlling image was shattered, and she was no longer respected in the community. Chinyonso, however, became a symbol of courage and resilience. People admired her for standing up for herself and exposing the truth, even when it was difficult. With Hadiza gone, Chinyonso started reclaiming her life. The council worked with Uncle Musa to ensure that all of Chinyonso's inheritance was returned to her. This included her father's properties, money, and other belongings that Hadiza had tried to keep for herself. Chinyonso felt a deep sense of relief and gratitude. For the first time in years, she felt free and in control of her own life. Uncle Musa stayed by Chinyonso's side throughout the process, helping her manage her inheritance and guiding her on how to use it wisely. He reminded her of her father's values and the importance of staying humble and kind, even with her newfound wealth. Chinyonso listened carefully and promised to honor her father's memory by making good choices. Although it was a painful journey, Chinyonso felt stronger and more confident than ever. She had faced betrayal, uncovered secrets, and fought for her rights, and now she was ready to build a brighter future. She knew that her life would never be the same, but she was determined to move forward with hope and courage. Hadiza's downfall marked the end of a dark chapter and the beginning of a new, promising one for Chinyonso. After Hadiza was gone, Chinyonso finally had time to reflect on everything that had happened. The betrayal still hurt deeply. She couldn't believe that the woman she trusted as her stepmother had lied to her and tried to steal her future. Sometimes, at night, Chinyonso would think about the moments when Hadiza pretended to care for her, only to realize it was all a part of her plan. It made her feel angry and sad, but she reminded herself that she had done the right thing by standing up for herself. Amina was always there to comfort her. "You've been so brave, Chinyonso," Amina would say. "Not everyone could do what you did. You've shown so much strength." Amina would visit often, bringing Chinyonso little gifts and telling funny stories to cheer her up. They would sit together under the shade of the big mango tree in the yard, talking about their dreams and plans for the future. Amina's presence reminded Chinyonso that she was not alone and that she had people who truly cared about her. Uncle Musa also played a big role in Chinyonso's healing. He helped her organize her father's properties and taught her how to manage her finances. "Your father would be so proud of you, Chinyonso," he said one day as they worked on the documents together. "You have his strength and courage." These words filled Chinyonso with pride and gave her the motivation to keep moving forward. As the days passed, Chinyonso began to rebuild her life. She decided to use part of her inheritance to support her education, something her father always wanted for her. She also started helping people in her village, especially children who needed school supplies or food. Doing these things made Chinonso feel happy and gave her a sense of purpose. With time, the pain of Hadiza's betrayal started to fade. Chinonso realized that the experience had made her stronger and wiser. She had learned the importance of trusting her instincts, standing up for herself, and valuing the people who truly loved her. Though the journey had been difficult, she knew she had grown into a more confident and determined person. Chinonso was no longer the quiet girl who simply followed others. She had become a young woman with a clear vision for her future, ready to face whatever challenges life might bring. With Amina and Uncle Musa by her side, she felt ready to embrace her new life and all the opportunities it held. With everything behind her, Chinonso was ready to start a new chapter of her life. She no longer felt like the scared girl who had been controlled by Hadiza's lies. Instead, she felt strong, free, and full of hope. She decided that her past would no longer hold her back. She would use the lessons she had learned to build a better future for herself. Chinonso enrolled in a school to continue her education, knowing it was what her late father had always wanted for her. She worked hard every day, determined to succeed and make him proud. She also started giving back to her community. Chinonso used part of her inheritance to help children in the village who couldn't afford to go to school. Seeing the smiles on their faces brought her joy and reminded her that she could make a difference. Her home, once a place filled with secrets and pain, became a space of peace and happiness. Amina continued to visit often, and the two friends shared dreams and laughter. Uncle Musa remained a strong support, always ready with advice or encouragement. Chinonso no longer felt alone. She had people who truly cared for her and wanted to see her thrive. As she moved forward, Chinonso chose to leave the pain of her past behind. Instead of dwelling on the betrayal, she focused on her bright future. She promised herself to live a life filled with kindness, strength, and courage. The hardships she had faced only made her more determined to live on her terms and never let anyone take advantage of her again. Chinonso's journey was one of pain, resilience, and triumph. It showed that even in the darkest times, hope and strength could lead to a brighter tomorrow. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an update. Also, share your thoughts in the comments below. What would you have done if you were in Chinonso's place? We'd love to hear from you.